guys, glad you're here. So today I have another true story for you that is quite miraculous. Can you imagine ever being in a plane crash, one, but two of them? The story I go over today, that's exactly what happened to this young man. So stay tuned and we'll get into it. Austin Hatch. He describes his childhood as loving, as just filled with everything he could ever want. And his parents, Stephen and Julie, they loved their children. They doted on them. They did everything they could to just raise them in a loving, caring family. Stephen, his father, was a doctor, while Julie, his mom, was a homemaker. So it worked out really nice. And Austin, he describes his mom as somebody that just everyone loved. I mean, this woman could walk into a room and just everybody's faces light up. That's like the big impact that she made on everybody's lives that she knew. Austin also had an older sister, Lindsay, who had dreams of being a ballerina one day. In addition, he had a younger brother. His name was Ian. Well, when Austin was just 8 years old, his world just came crashing down. In 2003, Austin's family had actually flown. His father also was a pilot, so gotta add that in. But they had flown to go visit his grandparents. And it was on their way back home where the plane had some issues when it started to prepare for landing. Well, the single-engine plane did crash, and unfortunately, it took the lives of his mother, Julie, who was 38, his siblings, both of them, Lindsay and Ian, who were 11 and 5. Austin and his father, Stephen, did survive miraculously. And get this, they barely had but a few scratches, so they walked away. And a quote from Austin, he said, "By the grace of God, my dad and I survived." Obviously, the two of them were absolutely devastated and heartbroken by the loss of the rest of their family. Austin said it was such a hard time to move on and get past what had happened. And in fact, Austin says, quote, "I think he," and he's referencing his father here, "I think he kept living life for me, to show me we could still keep living in the midst of pain." End quote. Austin says that he and his father would constantly pick out photo albums and just pour through them, and then just talk about all the family trips and family memories that they had together. It just helped so much during this tough time for them to get through. And as time went on, Stephen and Austin's bond strengthened as father and son. Austin loved basketball very much. He loved playing it, and he had dreams one day of going to the pros. And Stephen was so supportive of that. He supported his son's dream. Now, Stephen, he did eventually find love again years down. He married a woman named Kimberly, who also had 3 children from a previous relationship. Austin says that Kimberly absolutely loved him like he was her own. And Austin actually was really happy to have kids and family in the house again, because it had been just him and his dad for so long, and things were so quiet. So it was really nice to have that family unit once again. And I mean, even though he did love that, he said that he just desperately missed his mother and siblings still, despite that. And that new family unit, they also supported Austin's dreams of being a pro basketball player one day. On June 15th, 2011, Austin was offered a scholarship from the University of Michigan to play basketball, which was really cool to Austin, just that, but also that university was where his mother Julie had attended. However, 9 days after he was offered that scholarship, tragedy once again struck. Austin, Stephen, and Kimberly had boarded a plane, another plane that his father was piloting, and there was a second crash. Austin said that the plane had somehow stalled and then it crashed, hitting a garage in Charlevoix, Michigan. Not sure if I pronounced that right. Charlevoix. I think I did. But anyways, this was in Michigan where this occurred. The crash did kill his father, who was 46, and also Kimberly, who was 44. Now, it almost claimed the life of Austin as well. He was in critical condition. In fact, he barely survived. Once they got him to the hospital, he had to be put into a medically induced coma, and he was like that for the next 6 weeks, you see, because he had a TBI, so a traumatic brain injury, but he'd also had a punctured lung, broken ribs, broken collarbone, and a fractured femur, which is the large bone in your thigh. Now, after that 6 weeks, Austin says waking up from the coma fully took a long time, and he said it took months. Austin said he could not understand or do anything when he was awake. The way he described it, it's like he was in the room, but the lights just weren't on. You know, it just wasn't working. So Austin had to learn to walk, talk, eat, everything, just like a newborn would have to, or a toddler. He couldn't do it. So he had to relearn all of those things. And then once family and staff told Austin that his folks didn't make it, once again, he said that was the darkest time in his life because he's trying to relearn everything again. And he finds out his parents didn't survive. So he said the emotional distress during that time was, he couldn't even describe it. It was so awful. He did still have the rest of his family that surrounded him and loved him and supported him, as well as all of the doctors, nurses, and therapists that he saw on a daily basis. He said that they became like family to him as well. Austin had to go through a year of rehab and physiotherapy. And because of that, and because of the crash and everything, and him having to relearn everything at a slow pace, he missed a year of high school. So he had to redo another year. Now, once he graduated, he still was able to go to the University of Michigan, which was really cool. And in fact, they actually honored the scholarship still. So he still had the scholarship, still got to attend. It was just a little further back than what he had planned originally. Now, Austin also says that, he couldn't play basketball like he used to, obviously, after a TBI and everything. But he still loved the sport, and he still loved playing. Also, while he was attending university there, he met the love of his life, Abby. She was a volleyball player, and she was on the team there. So the two of them just hit it off great and began dating. The night before she graduated the university, Austin popped the question. So after he was able to finally graduate a few years down the road, they finally were able to get married. Once Austin graduated, he got a corporate job with Domino's. And during that time, as he's working and him and Abby are building, their relationship and their new marriage and everything, he says that Abby was just the greatest encourager and uplifter. She would encourage him all the time that you need to share your story, share what you went through. It could help or inspire others. So while he was working the corporate job on the side, he'd slowly start to do that, doing little speaking engagements and things like that. And after a while, he decided to do that full time. So in 2019, he left the corporate job at Domino's and he just did motivational speaking full time. He founded the Overcome It seminar and series, and he's spoken to over 300 schools, organizations, churches, etc. Austin says, quote, "My hope is that I can provide a little perspective and encouragement and touch people's lives," end quote. Austin still flies all over the country to do speaking engagements, and he's asked a lot if he's afraid of flying, and he says no, that he has no problem and he has no fear. In October of 2022, him and Abby welcomed their first boy into the world, Hudson. And it was such a blessing, not only because it was their first child, but They had gone through 2 years prior to that of IVF treatments. So once Hudson came along, it was just, that special extra blessing. Austin says he is so grateful for his little family and that he concentrates and focuses everything on them. Even though he does, he says he still tries to honor the family members that he lost. So he never forgets them, and he's always sure to make sure they're honored as well. So just an excellent story. It had its sad moments. I can't imagine going through one crash, but two, that is devastating. There's nothing else to say about that. But look at what's become and look at his great positive outlook on life and everything in general. So that's just a good ending. I hope you guys enjoyed this story. Hope it was a blessing. And if nothing else, put a smile on your face. Thank you for watching. God bless, and I'll see you next time.